Hey guys, welcome to the Confidence Nugget. My name is Christen. Welcome to my channel. I'm sitting here with Natalie Hinds, but before we get started, I kind of wanted to tell you why I wanted to create this channel in the first place. First of all, I started coaching in 1998, so I've been doing this for a really long time. Over the last 21 years, 99% of the people that I work with have been women. And the coolest part of coaching for me is these women have allowed me to go into those deep, dark, kind of scary, embarrassing places that we don't show very many people. And so I feel like I have so much information to share. Now, what motivated me even more to do this channel is when I started searching on YouTube and started searching around for other things like this that talk about confidence. The majority of stuff that popped up was body confidence. Now, I could talk all day on this, right? Because of course, as a woman, it's all about our bodies. But let me let you in on a secret. If your confidence depends on something that can change, like your weight, like your relationship status, your financial status, if it depends on something like that, it's not real confidence. And this channel, we're getting real and we're talking about real confidence. Now, the other reason I wanted to start this is because what I've realized about fear is that everyone experiences it, but everyone also feels like they're the only one experiencing it. And when we feel like we're the only one, the question that we ask ourselves, what is wrong with me? Which as a woman, we know that question really well. I want to talk real about fear and doubts. And lastly, I wanted to get real about failure because there is no successful woman out there that hasn't dealt with failure. But the problem is nobody talks about it because it's embarrassing. And the only thing we see is their success. I want to get real about fear and failure and confidence. Before we get into it, I kind of wanted to explain why I wanted Natalie to be the first person that I talked to on the Confidence Nugget. Natalie and I have known each other for
a few months.
And she honestly is such an inspiration. This is somebody who had a pretty successful career, but in 2016, after Olympic trials, was done, right?
I was done.
Done, ready to retire, ready to get away from swimming. But in the next 2 years, she realized she had more to do. She was courageous enough to make a comeback, but the coolest part of this comeback is she's doing it in such a different way. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but this time her eyes are wide open and she's doing things she's never done. She's learning so much. She and I working together, like she has just been a sponge taking it all in. I've been so excited. Every time I talk to her, she's realizing new things. It's just been absolutely amazing. So I'm excited for you guys to get to know her better. So, Natalie.
Hey.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Kind of give me your background, how you got into swimming, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Okay, so let's start back in early 1990s. So I was born in Texas, and growing up, I was really active. I swam, I did track, I did basketball. I got into swimming because my sister, she is about 5 years older than me, and I wanted to do everything she wanted to do. So she was swimming, so I was gonna swim. So I did, and I loved it. I swam in the neighborhoods and then our neighbor's backyard pool all summer, and then I decided to do it year round. I was such a bad kid. I was always in timeout. I just wanted to swim and not have anybody tell me what to do. So then I had to kind of reel that in and kind of learn like discipline and things like that. And that's kind of what a swim team taught me. And then as I grew older, I kept doing multiple sports. But fun fact, when I was 14, I really had to decide that I wanted to swim or not swim because I broke my hip doing track, because I was growing so fast and doing so many things that I just couldn't keep up with it. So I decided to quit everything else and swim. And then, swam, learned some things. I kind of just didn't really think when I swam. And then when I got to college, that all changed because it was just such a different atmosphere. It was a team atmosphere, and I was used to just swimming by myself and doing things, I'm in charge of my own self. And then when I got to school, that wasn't the case. And so I went to the University of Florida in 2012, fall of 2012. And my eyes, I've never experienced that. I'm so grateful for that experience. I learned things that I love. I learned things that I don't want to do. I had a really successful freshman year. I was SEC Freshman of the Year. I met so many cool people, learned so many good things. I swam really fast, so that's really my main priority. Sophomore year wasn't that good at all. We all go through what they call the sophomore slump, and that was me. Junior year was really special because NCAAs, I was one of 3 Black women, first time Black women went 1, 2, 3 in the 100 freestyle.
Yes.
So it was really cool to be a part of that and just to kind of be a little write up in the history book. So I'll always have that. And then senior year was kind of where it all started to mentally fall apart for me. I think I was just experiencing a little bit of burnout, and that started at the end of my junior year because I had this thought in my mind that, okay, I'm going to take off my junior year, and then senior year is just going to be better, and then I'm going to make the team. And so I had already carved out this trail for myself, and the chips were not falling where they were supposed to fall.
They never do.
No, they don't. And so my confidence was getting beat down every time that I was swimming, and it wasn't going the way that I was thinking. And time was running out, and by the time that I got to my senior year NCAAs, I was contemplating just that being my last meet, but I was like, you can't have this be your last meet. You at least have to go to trials. And so instead of being excited and ramping up for trials, I was just counting down the days, to be honest, because I just was so tired. And I'm not talking I need to go to sleep. I'm talking a deep down, my soul was tired. I needed to just go somewhere else and not swim and refresh myself, but I didn't have that option at the time. And so as you can imagine, I show up to trials, probably my worst meet of my whole career to date, even worse than, when you're 5 years old and you get disqualified. It was worse than that. And so the day after trials, I was had my bags packed, ready to go. I went home for 3 months, and it was the best 3 months of my life. I just needed to be around my family, and that's kind of where it stopped for me. And then that next 2 years where I wasn't swimming and I thought that I wanted to be in the real world was kind of where my mind shift changed. And I guess that's what leads me to be here now and to swim, because I just realized that the real world is not what I thought it was. But I mean, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't able to take that break and I wasn't able to step back and reflect on what exactly do I want to do before I can't do it anymore. And so that's why I'm here.
Yeah. And I feel like I need to say, because especially in the sport of swimming, well, it's probably in every sport, but coaches, you can't miss, and you have to keep going, and you have to swim, year round. And it's it drives me nuts because it takes such a mental toll. I'm such a big believer in taking breaks.
Yeah.
Getting away from the pool and taking breaks, physically and mentally. I think it does wonders.
Yeah, I'd agree with
people.
that. I think looking back now, I really do have the clarity that I need, is that my junior and senior year, I never took any breaks. After I had a whole year of college swimming, we went right into long course swimming. We ended that, and the next day I was at the OTC. I was at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado, and I was there for 2 weeks, and then I came back to school and I started my senior year. So I really never had a moment to breathe or even think about my junior year or my summer. And I think that honestly was one of the bigger things that really just mentally like knocked me down. And yeah, breaks. Now I'll take a break at any time. I think breaks are amazing. Like you need a break to just like breathe, like to do something else for a change. And, you know, like I think everything's different now. Like I'm not doing school, things like that. So
Sure.
breaks are, I'm here for them.
And I have this vision of like women taking this video into their coaches saying, see, I told you we need breaks. But anyway, we have talked about how when you were done, you were done.
Yeah.
You didn't want to see a pool. You didn't want to be near a pool.
I didn't want to talk about swimming.
Like just delete it from your life. When did that start changing?
Probably like a month before I started swimming again. Like it really took me a really long time to kind of just sift through everything and figure out like where it went wrong for me. And that's not easy to do because at the end of the day, I realized that like I'm in charge of my own happiness, what I want to do. It's not what my mom or my dad or my coach wants me to do. Although they're supporting me, like it is me. And so it took me like just short of 2 years to realize that everything that had happened prior to, there's other outside distractions, but I let those distract me from what I really wanted to do, which was go and make the Olympic team. And, you know, even though I didn't do that, I realized I learned a lot of things along the way that I'm now putting forth in when I'm swimming. And so, like a month before, I just sat down and had a conversation with my parents, and it was a really enlightening conversation. I really enjoyed it. And before that, I was like, I don't want to talk about swimming. Don't talk to me about swimming. And we sat there for like an hour and kind of just like, I explained to them like how I had been feeling and that I kind of wanted to swim again. And obviously they're all for it. They're my parents. They're not going to tell me like not to do something, you know, because I don't, you know, if I do or if I don't want to do it. So that conversation honestly was like one of the best ones I could have with them, because that kind of gave me the confidence, like, okay, like I'm not the only one who feels like this. Like, I'm not the only one who feels like I stopped too early or that I still have more left to give to myself and to the sport. So, yeah, I started swimming back September, about almost a year ago now. And so I thought about it probably like early August of last year.
So this Florida Gator chooses to train at
UGA,
Georgia. Let's talk about that.
Well, that was kind of the easiest part, like where I was going to train. I have always talked to Jack Barley, who's the head coach and has been the head coach of Georgia for like 40 years now, I think. Mm-hmm. And, you know, even when I was at Florida, he always came up to me and always has been so gracious and so nice, and always has been, if you need anything, let me know. And I knew I didn't want to train at Florida, although I'm, you know, forever grateful for everything that they have given me and all the tools and skills that they have given me, because I wouldn't be in this position now if it wasn't for them. Sure. But I just knew that, you know, one, Florida is far away currently from where I was living. I was living in Atlanta, and Athens is just like an hour up the road. So I called him, had a few conversations with him and my coach who I work really closely with, Brian Smith. And then it took about like a couple weeks or maybe 3 weeks or so, and then I just packed a U-Haul and had my friends help me, and I just drove and moved in.
So there wasn't a whole lot of, should I do this?
No.
It was like, done.
It was like maybe like a couple hours where I was like, oh my God, like, am I going to do this? And then maybe a day of like, do I actually know what I'm getting myself back into? Like, I'm changing my life again, like my lifestyle. Like, I'm not going to be able to go out with friends after work. I'm not going to be able to just eat whatever I want. I'm not going to be able to just sit like a bump on a log on a Saturday. And like my mind is going to have to change. And I think that was what I thought about most, was just like, I'm excited. And then it like kind of set in like, oh, okay, well, like what if this doesn't work out? What if I'm like making all these changes and it doesn't work out? But, you know, again, like I said, I threw my stuff in the U-Haul and there was no turning back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And the what if, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the what ifs are what stop us as women so often, because we start, you know, I always say when a what if enters our mind, we never go best case scenario, right? We never think, what if this is the greatest moment of my life? We're thinking worst case scenario, which, you know, we take steps back from our dreams. But I'm so thankful that you didn't allow those to stop you, and you
I mean, they were getting large.
Yeah.
They were getting large. I think the what if started to set in kind of like maybe after the first week of training, because I was really excited. I showed up, I met everyone, and then I had to actually get in and swim. And I was like, oh man, this is why I came back. But it was, I mean, imagine you haven't swam for 2 years and you come back and it's long course with like 60 people in the water and you just jump in last. Like there's 9 people in every lane. And I'm like, oh my, is this really what I want to do? And it was a rough 2 weeks, to be honest with you. Like, honestly, probably like a rough 3 or 4 weeks. I don't think until the 5th week did I feel like comfortable. And I knew it would take some time, but it was kind of like going back to college all over again. Because we trained with the college kids, so I didn't know anybody's name. I was the newest person there. I was like, I knew the post-grad group, like, you know, I had grown up with them going throughout college, but it's just different when like you're entering a new arena with these people. You're no longer in college. You're all professionals, and it's like things aren't the same. And so it took me about almost 2 months to kind of find my balance.
Your groove.
Yeah, like a good routine to establish.
Yeah. Well, something that we've talked about is, you know, the difference between training in college and training now, and really opening your eyes, right? Because I always say one of my biggest regrets from my career was that I was such a hard worker in the pool, in the weight room, right? That was my training. But I never saw the confidence or the mental piece as training. I never saw the nutrition piece as training. And so I didn't do well in those areas. I was ridiculous in those areas. I did nothing in those areas. And I wish that I would have made that part of my training, because I know I would have worked a lot harder.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that, because I know that, again, I keep using this, but we've talked about it. Your eyes are open now.
So exactly what you said, like in college, I was all about swimming. I never missed a practice. I thought I was working hard. Weight room, I thought I was working hard. I only cared if I was lifting more and more weight. But like, and I say this because it's like so embarrassing to tell, but it's kind of just, it like lets you in on like where my mind was at. Like I would like swim a whole practice and go and do a whole weight room workout. And I was so tired, like physically, that I wanted to go to sleep. And obviously you need to eat. Like you can't fuel your muscles with nothing. And so I went home, and I remember I had like a bowl of cereal, and that was it. And in my mind, I thought like that was okay. And my dad called me, and he's like, what are you doing? And I told him, you know, like I just finished practice. He's like, oh, well, what are you eating? And I was like, I wanted to take a nap, and so I had a bowl of cereal. And he will not ever let me forget that story. And it used to just annoy me, especially in the moment, because I was like, what are you talking about? And now, if I could go back and talk to myself then, I'd be like, what are you doing? Because it just didn't occur to me that there was like nutrition and, more importantly, like the mental aspect of all of this, honestly. And like the more elite you get, those two things probably are just as important as training and weightlifting. And so like when we say eyes closed, that's exactly what I mean. It was like, I'm just gonna make the interval. And that's like my biggest goal. Forget how am I swimming this? How is this, you know, the same as my race strategy? Is this how many kicks I want to do off the wall? Is this how I want to come into the wall? Like none of those thoughts were in my mind. I was like, I had a good practice. I made the intervals. That's it. And like, same with nutrition. There was none. There was no nutrition. It was like, and so now when our eyes are open, it's like if you could like see what's going on in my head during a practice, it like never stops. And that's partly why I'm so tired, is because it's like I'm going through my mind every single turn, every single 50. Like, am I pulling where I want to pull? Is this how I want to hit the wall? Is this, you know, all those things that like go into it. And it's like, when I get home, my first priority is like, I have to eat. Also because I'm starving, but like I have to eat, I have to drink water, I have to do this, I have to do that. And the days go by obviously so quick, because it's like you're not thinking about anything else. And that's the difference between how I was in college and how I am now as a pro, is like, this is my job. like, I don't have anything else to do, so I might as well do it to the best of my ability.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. And I've always said, when I work with the very elite, I think that what stands out to me the most is how awake and aware they are, right? Not just getting through a practice, but actually paying attention to the details.
Yeah.
You know, oh, my stroke feels off. You know, oh, I got to make sure I'm aggressive on these turns. I mean, thinking about things that you've never thought about, which we say the eyes are finally open.
Yeah. And those, I mean, and my eyes honestly weren't even open still when I started swimming again, because I was, you know, going, I mean, what other way would I go back into other than my old ways? And so, like, swimming with all the pros, like Olivia, Haley, Mel, all of them, like, and seeing how they all operate, they operate very differently as individuals, but the, you know, like, the main, I guess, focus is the same. And that's kind of what, like, brought it to my attention. Like, you got to find something that works for you, and you kind of have to be selfish, because you can't worry about what other people do. Like, when I first started, like, about this time last year, I was just honestly doing what everybody else was doing, because I was like, are we supposed to do this? I'll do this. And then it occurred to me we went to our first long course meet in Knoxville this past January. And it kind of just, like, clicked for me that, like, I have to do things on my own, and it's not going to hurt me if I don't do what they do. Like, I just have to find what works for me. And I think that's when my eyes really popped open. Like, I don't, you know, it's good to take from other people, but you have to, like, mold it to yourself, because I'm not the same person as Olivia, or I'm not the same person as Haley. And, you know, as good of friends as we may be, we are different people, and we operate differently. We swim different events. So.
And she used the word selfish, which we always use in those moments, but selfish is, you know, obviously kind of a negative word.
Right.
It's self-care. It's really figuring out what you need. And to be honest with you, when I see athletes start to realize what's best for them is when I see a caterpillar slowly turning into a butterfly, and they really start to take off. That is the moment when they really start to take off, when they think to themselves, what is best for me? Not in a selfish way, in a self-care, what, you know, what is best for me. So I think that's huge. So obviously I want to go into the mental piece, the confidence piece here. Now, what you can't see if you've never seen her before, she's 6'2", okay? And I remember, because I was still coaching at Miami when you were a freshman, because I didn't leave until 13. So,
so I was a freshman,
I knew that I remembered seeing you on deck. She's scary on deck, okay? Her face, she's always serious. She's very, very intimidating. And so when she reached out to me to start talking, wow, this intimidating, you know, fearless woman wants to talk confidence, because she was struggling a little bit. And so everyone out there realize, I mean, I've worked with the best in the world. I've never met one that doesn't struggle with confidence in some sort of way. So you are not alone. Let's make that clear. So we start talking, her eyes open more and more and more. I looked back at my notes, because I keep notes when I talk to people, and one of the first things that you said to me was, I'm not good at long course, okay? Because all of her success was in college, short course swimming, things like that. But anytime that she did a long course meet, she wasn't having success. It was failure, right? And so in her mind, she was not good at long course. And I think I said, I call BS on that. I won't swear on camera, but I call BS on that, because the only reason she didn't feel like she was good at long course is because she wasn't having success in long course. But when you're diving in thinking, I'm not good at long course, most likely you're not going to have a great swim.
It's not going to work out.
Right? So let's talk through that. And because FYI, she's having huge success in long course now.
I just never had that. I would be so envious of, like, the girls who would just pop on the scene, like, won nationals, and, like, it was always my dream to, like, swim for Team USA. And so, like, when I was 16 or so, or 15, 16 is, like, when long course for me really started to matter. And I had like success, if you want to call it, up until I got to college. I remember we went to Canada for this meet, and it was just an invitational in May. It wasn't even like our taper meet, and I swam lights out. Like I went all best times, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm setting myself up for trials. Didn't even make an A final. And I think that's when it really started to be like, I don't know. Like, and so we talk about that feeling that I get at like a big meet. It's like, I remember the 100 freestyle, and I was about to get on the blocks, and I just felt like the pool wasn't a pool. I felt like it was longer than 50 meters. I felt like I was an ant on deck, and I'm not an ant because I'm taller than like basically everyone on deck.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this wasn't the same pool that I had ever like did a warm up in. And it was just such a weird feeling to me. And I remember that still to this day. And I didn't go, I think I made like one A final in the 50 fly, but like it wasn't like the meet that I had hoped for. And ever since then, I was just like, I don't think this is going to work out. And it never worked out, and it never worked out. And I used to tell myself these lies like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And in my back of my mind, I'm like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. Because it's like, I'm not going to like, I can't trick myself. If your subconscious doesn't believe it, it's not going to happen.
Yes.
So, I mean, every meet, even trials, I was just trying to get through it. I was just trying to get through it, go home. Like, and that's not how you shouldn't be competing if you're feeling like that, So even coming back, I was like, I don't know, like long course. And I never forget, Olivia told me, we're walking out of the pool, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do another long course back. She's like, long course is all we have. So we're going to have to learn how to learn to like it. And that's really stuck with me, because when I walk into practice now, I can see if it's long course or short course, I can like a peek of the pool. And when I see long course, I used to be like, but now I'm like, okay.
My job.
Yeah, it's time. So that's kind of like where I'm at with long course. Like, obviously, do I love short course? Yeah, but I do know now that there's benefits to both. Short course works well for my walls to help with long course, because people are like, your walls aren't important in long course. But I'm like, everything's,
important.
Everything's important. And so my love for long course has grown. It's just something that I'm not that good at. It's hard for me to get through the same amount of, the same practice long course as it is short course. So it's just like, a daily thing that I have to remind myself that this is all I have, and this is, if I want to meet my goals, this is the pool I have to do it in. So there's really no way around it.
Yeah.
So
that's huge.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go back to that moment where you're standing behind the blocks and you're looking at the pool and it looks longer than 50 meters. I think that those are the times, because when we go into panic mode, when we are in fear, we lose all perspective, right? We have no sense. I've been dying to tell this story. So last week or the week before, I can't remember, I was running and I'm getting out early because of the heat. So when I go out, it's dark, right? And so I'm running, and I run into this cul-de-sac, and I put my foot down. And as I put my foot down, I see a snake. I almost stepped on it. Okay. So the snake starts slithering. I don't know about you, but snakes for me.
Not for me.
I cannot do it. So anyway, I freak out, obviously, and I run into the cul-de-sac, but then I realize I have to come back out of the cul-de-sac, right? Well, it's dark, and I can't see it. And so I'm sitting there, and I have my hands on my knees, and I'm looking everywhere for this snake, and I want to run into the grass, but what if it went into the grass? And so finally I spot it, go through the grass and run. And then I call Sean, and I was just like, oh my God, like a snake, blah, blah, blah. He's like, why didn't you just use your flashlight? And I'm like,
is he talking about on your phone?
Yes.
No.
Why didn't I use my flashlight? You know why? Because when you're in fear and panic, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, you lose all sense. And that's in those moments, when you're standing behind the blocks, when you're getting ready to compete, when you're getting ready to do a presentation or whatever, in those moments where you're feeling pressure, you lose any sort of sense.
Yeah. And even us talking all these months, and like my confidence gaining and going into nationals, I've told you this story before, but kind of going into like remembering, the fear and the perspective and like, so back at nationals, which was now almost like a month ago, which is pretty crazy. It has gone by so fast, but I remember seeing that the 100 free was first, and I did not want it first because back in NCAAs and stuff, I would start off meets terribly, 3-day meets, whatever. And I would start off to where like the 50 free was first. I wouldn't make finals. And then fast forward to day 3, I'd be third. I would get third. And so it was just a weird thing that I would do. And I think it just had to do with my confidence. It was like, I needed to swim a couple times to, to get that confidence that like I was tapered enough or ready, so 100 free is first. And I know that I'm going to be okay just because of all of the pro series and the meets leading up. I hadn't had that issue. And so the day comes and I am drinking my water like my mouth was dry. I was just so shaky. I could barely eat breakfast, and that's usually never an issue for me. And I'm like warming up, and I remember getting out and I'm like, I cannot feel my legs. And it's just like, so I had to like stop and be like, Natalie, your legs are there. Your legs are fine. Your legs were the same legs that were yesterday where you felt fast. Like, and when I'm in that moment and everything starts to feel very different, I just try to remind myself, just keep doing the routine you've been doing. And I think that was really huge for me. Cause I had a successful nationals, but even in behind the blocks in the 100 free, it's like, I just, my mind it's calm, but before that, it's like I'm bouncing off the walls, and I just have, you have to learn how to suppress that and just repeat to yourself, like, this is what it is. And I think that's really something that's helped me, that we've worked on a lot, is just repeating the facts. Like, the facts are, you're the same person you were yesterday.
Yes.
The facts are, this pool is the same pool that you have practiced in twice a day, every day for the, past 10 months. And so it's like, it's kind of like you get to a point where you're like, there's two people in your head. There's like the scared Natalie, and there's the new Natalie, the confident Natalie. And they're just like having a fight, and you're just like, if you guys could just wrap this up, like I could, get on to swimming. And so it ended up, I did learn some things, but what I learned is that you just have to repeat the facts to yourself, especially when you get in those, the truth, especially when you get in those moments of where you feel like an ant on the pool deck, because you're not, you're the same person that you were, when you arrived, and all, everything's relaxed. It's a relaxed energy.
Sure.
But as soon as they start like putting the music on and the lights turn on, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how to swim. It's like, yes, you do. You know how to swim.
Yeah. And I'm big in the what ifs, because what ifs, again, we go worst case scenario, it brings fear.
Yeah.
Right? It brings anxiety, which, makes us think we don't have legs, and that the pool is longer than it actually is. So it's really pulling yourself back to truth.
Yeah.
Right? Talk to me a little bit about, because every time that I go out and speak and things like that, and I talk about, because I always share like the top what ifs that I hear from the elite athletes that I work with. And often there are young women in the audience with tears running down their face, because they're so grateful to know that they're not the only one with these thoughts. Kind of talk to me a little bit, if you're willing to get honest, about some of the what ifs that go through your mind.
I mean, the what ifs have changed since I've started to where I am now. And like I said, when the excitement died down that I was swimming again and I was in it, it was the biggest what ifs came at that first meet in Knoxville. It was like, we got there, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if I was in the last tee for the 100 fly, which was first event. And I remember I think I was more nervous for that than I was at nationals, to be honest, just because, like you always talk about, the fear of the unknown. I had no idea what was going to happen.
Sure.
Of course, like, my practices have been going well, training's fine or whatever, but I mean, I'm like, what if I get behind the block? My biggest what if was, what if this happens again? What if I just get last and I just walk out and I quit? Like,
I'm out.
I didn't know what to expect, but I don't know how to say this right. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew what I did not want to happen. So I'm like afraid of what I think has a chance of happening. Of course it didn't happen because I'm not the same person that I was, 2 years ago. But that was my biggest what if. What if this all just happens again? What if I'm not good at long course? And fast forward to now, I would say my biggest what if is not that. I know that that's not going to happen because it hasn't happened and I'm past that. But I think my biggest what if is, I think this is everyone's, but just what if I don't reach my goals?
Sure.
And I think a lot of, especially elite athletes, they measure success by making a team, making the Olympics, doing this, doing that. And it's like, you have to create small goals for yourself, or else you're going to swim, have a whole career. And if you don't meet your one goal, you're like, this was all a waste of time.
Right.
And then, then you'll be regretful after the sport's over, instead of being like, you know what, I gave it my all and that's all I could ask for, And so I think it's just being okay with giving your all every day. Every day I know I'm exhausted because I did everything that I could that day. And if I don't, I'm like, okay, what could I have done better? And having accountability partners is huge. Olivia is one of my best friends who I train with, and she and I have really got on each other in a really good way about nutrition and training and weights and things outside the pool that you need someone to help you with. It's hard because pro life is lonely.
Sure.
It's very lonely. And I live by myself, and most of us live by ourselves. And so it's if you're not at the pool, you're not weightlifting, you're at home by yourself, unless you're hanging out. It's I see y'all all the time anyway. So, but yeah, my biggest what if is just, what if this amounts to nothing? What if I just feel really empty like I did before?
Sure.
So it's kind of just finding a way to work around that and kind of realizing that you're more than than a sport. What have I've learned so much already. So I feel that's already a win for me because I'm not the same person, how you say, my eyes were completely shut. And now it's I'm just soaking in all this. Every day is new for me. I'm soaking in so much information. So yeah, my biggest what if, that is definitely comes to mind.
So I feel the only remedy for these what ifs is speaking truth to it, right? But the problem is that so often, we were kind of talking about this earlier, you can sit here and you can say, I got this, but down deep, right? Our down deep as women will always tell us the truth. Yeah. So if we sit there and say, oh, I got this, then, but down deep, it's you sure about that? We are way too smart to con ourselves into believing something that we don't believe. And it actually takes energy to try to con yourself into believing it. I can't tell you how many athletes, have said, I was taught from a young age to stand, behind the blocks and say, I will be great today, or I will swim fast today. But the problem is, down deep, they didn't believe it, right? So what are some truths that you truly believe about yourself, that you don't have to con yourself into believing them? In those times where the what ifs come, you have to pull yourself back into perspective. You have to pull yourself back into truth. What does that look like?
I know at nationals for me, because that's where I experienced the most, was with these what ifs, and the fear was just, it was like an elephant. It was just crazy because all the other meets I felt it, but this meet, it was a huge elephant. And I'm I think the things that I really repeated to myself, especially behind the blocks, were just that I don't do anything different. You are ready for this. And I think when I say that I'm ready, I truly believed it, because I've even told you this now, and I've told my teammates, I thought I was going to do a lot better at nationals, to be honest. But that's my own, how I say, goal, where you don't reach your goals, so you're oh, I'm a failure. So, and so if you sit back and look at it, it's no, I went all 3 best times, made my first 3 A finals, something I've never done before. So it's you have to look at it for different views. But that was the biggest thing I repeated to myself, was that this meet is unlike it, or this meet is like all the other meets. It's no different. Same pool. You got competition, you know. If I do the same things I've been doing, I will be fine. And I remember repeating that to myself before going over to the blocks for the 100 free, because as you know, I was trembling with nervousness. I literally repeated to myself, don't do anything different than you have done.
Yeah.
All I have to do is be aggressive like I always have been. And I think that helps. Like, just focusing on what you can control. Can I control being aggressive? Yes. I can't control anybody else.
Right.
And I think that honestly is the biggest thing that I've had to learn. And it's hard. Like, we sit here and we're like, yeah, you can't control anybody else. But when you're warming up and you like see someone, you're like, they're getting out of the warm-up pool. Should I get out of the warm-up pool? Like, and especially when fear sets in, you're like, should I
doing this right?
Right.
Yeah.
Should I be wearing the suit that they're wearing? Like, it gets so nitty-gritty, and I'm like, Natalie, what are you doing? Like, no, you don't need any of that. You have done this 1,000. How many times do you think that a swimmer at the elite level has swam that event? Like, so many times. So it's like, you've swam this. You know exactly what you need to do. You don't need to change anything that you have been doing. So that's just what I repeat to myself.
Yeah, and I think two of the main things, as I think back on, you know, helping you get prepared for this meet, I think two things that I wanted her to know is, yes, this is nationals, which unfortunately she had never done well, you know, before in a nationals, which, you know, what if it happens again? That's going to be the fear, right?
Right.
So I wanted her to know, yes, it's the same meet, but she's not the same person.
Yeah.
Right? And then the second thing is, which I think is so important for all of us to understand, is the fears are going to come, right? They're going to come. We are going to go there. We just can't stay there.
Right. And that's honestly was very helpful for me. And it's like just small snippets of our conversation are kind of like what go through my head. Like, you know, when you have all those fears, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm freaking out. But like the fact that you can't stay there is when you just start repeating your truths and you continue on with your routine. And I'm not saying that that's a recipe for success, but it definitely is not what I was doing prior to. And, you know, like you said, I wasn't the same person. So just like having someone tell you like, it's okay to be scared is honestly kind of like what people need to hear. A lot of people think like, you see fears, you got to run the other way. Like, they're not going to catch me. But like to be able to just like, I think about it. This is how I think about it. Like, you're able to dive into the fears, waller in them, whatever you want to do. But you got to get out sometime. You can't just let them pull you back in. And I think that's really important, like to know what exactly they are and to just be like, they don't mean anything, and just keep on going. I think that's really important.
Well, one of the things that during nationals, when we were talking, you were like, I'm allowing them to come. Like, I'm allowing them to hit me, and I'm allowing them, because in the past, when the fears would come, you'd just try to ignore them.
I would try to repeat fake mantras on top of it or something like that. So yeah. And I know we're talking about like allowing them to come, and it takes work. It's not like I sat there and I was like, I'm scared. Yeah. No, it wasn't like that. It took a lot of work, and I think that's one of the bigger things I realized, like, to be okay with how you feel takes a lot of work. Absolutely. Especially when you're like, I don't know how I'm going to swim, but I'm going to do what I've been trying to practice doing mentally. Like, it's the same physically. Like, you go to practice every day. Mentally, you have to practice every day. And, you know, this was my test, just like this was, you know, my taper meet. This was also my mental taper as well. Yeah. So it takes work to be able to just let your fears overtake you and then be like, okay, but this is what's real, and this is, you know, what's tangible. So yeah, it takes work.
Well, I think it takes courage, because I think that's the main word, courage here, because what we do when the fear comes is we try to turn our back on it, like, oh, I don't see you, but just because you pretend it's not there doesn't mean it's not there. And it certainly doesn't mean that it's not going to affect you in a negative way. So having the courage to turn around and say, I see you. I see you. What if I embarrass myself? What if I disappoint everybody? What if, I don't reach my goal? And actually face it and feel it, but then knowing I can't stay there, let me get back to my truth. Let me pull myself back into perspective. That's courageous.
Yeah, it takes work.
Good job.
Thanks.
So anyway, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
I'm so excited about the future. This is just the beginning for you, for sure. What I'd like to do, because this is called the Confidence Nugget, to close, I'd love for you to give a little nugget to everybody out here about confidence and what can help them.
What can help them? Well, if you were listening very closely, you would know a few things, but I think my nugget to you guys for confidence is to know that there's nobody like you, and to embrace that, and to know that what's going to work for somebody else is not going to work for you, and being able to try different things out. And it's okay to try this out and it doesn't work and you're like, I don't think that's for me, and to try something else. It's all about doing what's best for you, and the only way you're going to be able to establish your own routine is if you try one thing and you figure out it doesn't work. So that would be my little confidence tidbit.
So important. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You've inspired me. I'm quite sure you've inspired and motivated a lot of women out there too. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.